In economics, if we ask the question what life is about, if we regard economics as the hive activity of humanity, as a biological entity, a sociological biological entity, a socio-bio entity, a living organism, a living social organism, we can ask the question, what is life about in economic terms? Is life about life, or is it about preparing for life, or is it about protecting or covering life? And what kind of a life is that, where security or education or health is sought above all other aims? Life is about life. And what is a free life, a liberated life? With the excuse that one is preparing for life, or educating life, or covering life, or protecting life, the mishaps of life, government intrudes quite remarkably in the life, the socio-biological life of humanity. I think we have reached a point where the point of life has become to pay taxes, and people do not understand the sheer quantity and amount and proportion of their life that is now devoted to paying taxes. And this is brought home to me in that my income not being high, I won't say what it is, but my income not being high, my personal taxes are approaching somewhere between 40 and 50%. And I'm thinking, this is the tax rate that a rich person might or thought ought to pay, or the middle class, or some such thing. Obviously, if all one's taxes are 99 cents in the P, or 99%, you basically want to go and live elsewhere, or you cease your activity, or you take as much of your wealth with you and go somewhere else, which I think is what people did in England prior to Thatcher, or during some of Thatcher's reign, and under the kind of socialistic taxes of England. And this led to the closure of most of British industry and British Rail and BOAC and so on. Well, they morphed into British Airways, but the days of the rule Britannia were definitely over from that period on. And strange financial activities of the city in London since have perhaps merely created an artificial feeling of wealth and not the real thing. So the thinking has been that, a 200% tax on something is okay because it just doubles the price, and only the people who really want this item will buy it. So of course if the old tax was 100% and the real cost was 100% of its value, so you've got 200%, and now it's 200% tax, so really the price of the item is 300% of what, or 3 times what it would have been had there been no taxes on that item whatsoever. And this has been thought to be an elastic application, that you could apply this to almost anything. Well, I'm about to seriously dismay that kind of thinking, because the real tax rate, with sales tax, and property taxes and rates and local body government charges and fees, and even accounting for stamp duties and registrations for motor cars and bicycles, and, well, not bicycles but motorcycles, and dogs and things like that. These are revenue gathering items, and so are traffic fines and library fines and so on. They are revenue gathering items for government, in whichever form you may like to think of it. And elsewhere I've suggested that when you have a real tax rate, and this is not income tax, this is income tax plus sales tax plus property taxes plus other fees and charges and other taxes, departure taxes, airport taxes, any and all fees and charges, all revenue gathering by central government or central regional authorities. You can put that in a sector of the economy, and it is now, for rich, middle income and poor, it's approaching 50% of anyone's income. Now, historically, taxes were at, say, 10%, and so you'd have 10% of the people working for the government. At 20%, 20% of the people working. 50%, well, you're roughly having 50% pensions, beneficiaries, government servants, people on government contracts, and so on and so forth. You know, no matter how it's disguised, no matter how much it's made to look as if they're private state corporations, it's government revenue. And I've suggested elsewhere it's the biggest gang on the block. And it just happens to be a legal gang, but is it any less tyrannous? It even runs its own numbers racket in, state lotteries and such like things. We have here bonus bonds, and also you have which pay a premium. There's a draw, and there's prizes and things. And then there's government, compulsory payments for compulsory savings for retirement and superannuation and so on and so forth. These are also revenue gathering things, because there's no guarantee in the future, and historically governments have stolen this kind of accrual of money. Yes, believe it. Look at history. Governments have stolen money from the people. Adolf Hitler did it. The Argentinian government did it. You'll find that governments, Bill Clinton did it. You will find that governments will do this just to balance their books for 1 year, just to make themselves look good for a brief time, but they will accrue 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of savings and investment for 1 year. And whew, what do you do then when the money's gone? The promises that they will protect your future are null and void. This is the age where sovereign defaults occur, where governments betray their people on false promises, promises they cannot keep. It's a frightening age. More anxious than the age of anxiety, you should be terrified of what is happening. and what I shall unfortunately be forced to unfold to you. Because it's worse than that. I've suggested elsewhere that when you reach a 50% level, one half of the country is paying for the other half of the country. Presumably the healthy, productive half of the country is paying for the useless half of the country. And as you approach the 50%, you are eating into the profits, the lifeblood of the other half. Where's the advantage in being the other half? You may as well, join up with the majority and just suck on the teats of the state, which is what people do. Now, what I'm about to suggest is utterly terrifying, in that the 50% mark puts us into crisis, but we've passed the point of crisis a long time ago, and we should never have gone beyond. I'd like to suggest that the limit is not now 50% or even 100%. 100% obviously is a kind of slavish communism, and since everybody's in the state and you can't get out of the state, whether you're a prisoner, a beneficiary, a worker, a soldier, a commissar or whatever, you can't be sacked in a kind of way, so nobody really, you can be transferred, you can be sent to the gulag and so on, but you can't be sacked. You're going to cost the state somehow or other. And everybody sees the gigantic pointlessness of it all, so people drag their feet. Hence you get this Stakhanovite kind of promotions, which are a lie. And you also get the managers who lie consistently because the central authority wants to be lied to. And this is what we have now with Wall Street and Enron and Savings and Loan and Lehman Brothers and all the rest of it. The bailouts. We just want to be lied to because it's too ferociously frightening to consider what it really is underneath. And it's not too far underneath there. It's not that difficult to think out. But at the 50% mark, you're cannibalizing your economy. From 45 to 55%. There's your profit for the other half. 5% potential profit for the whole sector, half the country. And if you eat into that, to go to 50%, zero is nothing. For the sector as a whole, for half the country, it's over, it's finished. That's obviously a dead point. You've reached slack water, you've reached, your interference wave flattening out. It's cancelled, it's zero, it's nothing. You can't do anything. It's impossible. So you get the emphasis on innovative, spectacular countries, which our Prime Minister does. The exceptions. Well, okay, there are exceptions, but basically 90% of people are average, and some are below average, and of course you get your bankruptcies, which cancel out the spectacular, exceptional cases. And in this country, the exceptional cases tend to go overseas anyway, so are not too much good to us. What you have to deal with is averages, the bulk of things. And what's happening is we're making the young people pay for the education of prior generations, making them pay for the pensions of prior generations, making them pay for the benefits and health, etc., of all the mismanagement of prior generations. But what's there for them? It's already being spent on half the people. So half the working people working away, paying for them. What's for the current working ones in their future? Basically, it doesn't exist. We take out a loan. Well, a loan wouldn't be enough. just would not be enough. We need trillions of dollars to pay for these guys, and where is it? It simply isn't there. We're already paying loans to pay for the little extras and the occasional needs of this group. They're healthy, they're productive, they're not on a pension. They don't need anything. All the ones who need something are over in this sector. So, the frightening thought occurs to me that the real maximum tax rate that should be built into a constitution is 25%. That is half this. And that should be the limit for government. Half the tax rate that we're now currently paying. Half. That is the final end point. In fact, it should be a little bit lower than that because of the cannibalism aspect. The 5% leeway to the advantage of the working and the productive, to encourage them to continue to work and produce a little bit of profit, in other words. This is considering the entirety, the whole. It's under the aspect of eternity, the big picture, not the little detailed thing that twittering little economists fiddle around with their diagrams of mathematics. That's nothing. The geniuses on Wall Street have lost enormous sums of money. So we cannot follow them. They are, more ignorant than they realise. And they're still wondering where they went wrong. Now 25%, you see, because you've got to take 25%, that is half of the half, somehow to pay for the rest. Well, this crop is going to have to pay for most of their own things themselves, so they've got to have half of what's left. So that's got to be cut to the halfway point. So 20% really is pretty well the maximum tax rate and should be written into a constitution. I will argue further on these points in other videos that 20% is the top real tax rate, including all charges that any government anywhere should pay. Now, there's an objection to this. You could say that the needy ones of this healthy, productive group here are already represented, in the flow of time in this group here. The old